To be my first Glowforge laser cutter project, aside from the founder's ruler, which of course we did as the first step that everybody does for the setup. It's going to be on clear acrylic. I've got a piece of proof grade medium clear acrylic in there from the Glowforge company. We'll see what that comes out as. I have created a design. I'll show you on the computer next. So here's the design. I did it in Photoshop and Illustrator this morning. Mostly Illustrator, although a little bit in Photoshop because I wanted some gradient stuff. It is going to be, well, it's deer. It's inverted right now, so it's going to face the other direction because with acrylic, if it's going to be a lit sign, which this is going to be part of, it needs to be inverted so that when you flip it around, you'll get the full effect. I hope this works. I've never done this before. We'll see. I followed the best practices online for creating the documents. I am a graphic designer by trade, so it wasn't too difficult for me to get this set up and put in here. I have my engrave settings just for posterity because I will forget. The wisps, shall we say, are set at HD photo because that is what will do the gradients best according to online documentation. And the actual highlights I've set to HD graphic to capture all the little details, and then I have the cut which will go around the little sign itself. This will slot into a light holder and hopefully will light up and be looking very much like the Snape Patronus from Harry Potter. We'll see if that works. Now over to the Glowforge. As usual, the real projects never go quite as smoothly as you want them to. I keep encountering an unexpected error. So what I'm going to do, since I'm not going to move any of these until it's done, I'm going to have it ignore. I'm going to have it ignore one of the artwork steps here and the cut for now. I'm going to have it do what I think is the major memory hog here, the HD photo engrave of the fuzziness first, because this is the part that I think is going to make it look otherworldly, and we'll try that. Alright, so it's definitely the size of the file. I'm going to have to go back and break up the top area here, this one here, where I've set it to ignore right now. Just the engrave for the second layer, which is the kind of highlights engrave, is registering that it's going to take 27 minutes. And it's kind of showing me the slow crawl here of how it thinks the laser is going to do it. After that, I'll go back and have it do the cut. But before I press anything and have it go on, I'm going to go back into the art and divide up the top bits so I can set it to do in segments, because this obviously is not gonna process the whole thing at once. Okay, and we're back. That didn't take me very long at all. I just whipped it into Photoshop and cut apart the gradient file and into two pieces. So now there is this bit here, which is the top half of the deer shading, and this is the bottom half of the deer shading. You can see when I mouse over them, the color changes on the right. And then this is the engraving of a deeper nature, hopefully, if I've selected the right settings, that will make the highlights of the deer. There's only a few of those that just like outline, you know, the leg muscles and things like that, and this then is the cut line. So we're going to go ahead and try and process this and see if it processes any better. Alright, so I got the error message again, and I realized that I have done the correct series of steps. I just left one out at the end here, which was the reason for breaking apart the files, was so that I could ignore the other pieces and it could process one bit at a time. So now I've changed these to be ignore and that one to be engrave, just the top half of the shading of the deer, and we'll give that a go and see if it works. So, definitely knew this was going to be a learning process. Fifth time hopefully will be the charm. The shading is now broken into 4 sections. I have told it to ignore all the other shading and the cut line and just concentrate on the first engrave, which is right here, you can see it light up when I move over the head of the deer, the engraving of the head of the deer. So I'm going to see if it can handle just this tiny portion of it. You know, just my overly abundant design, I guess, causing it to choke. At least I hope that's the case. If not, there may be another problem that I have to troubleshoot. But we'll give it a go and see what happens. Okay, success. At last, it's showing me that it's going to do the small engrave of the head first, because I've told it to ignore everything else, and it actually says that's only going to take 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So, since everything else is now set up to ignore, as long as I don't open the lid or move anything in between processes, I should be able to go down the list in order from the top to the bottom and have everything the way I want. We will press the print button and see how it goes. Alright, we're back here at the wonderful brand new Glowforge. Again, this is only the second print it's ever done for me. And of course I had to do something terribly elaborate because I'm that way. But the button is blinking, telling me that it's okay, and I'm going to go ahead and press it. And here comes the magic. I won't stand here the full 5 minutes, I promise. I hope you can hear me over this. Right now, we're venting out the window with a very nice setup. The hose that they sent us with it, and we have blocked the rest of that with a nice piece of foam matting. So that's all nice and exhausting outside right now until we get the filter unit for our pro here in June or July. But I'm so excited just to be doing this. I press print, so that's something. This may be so light as to be not existent. I may have to change how I do this. I really don't know. Again, this is my first time, other than the founder ruler, my first time with acrylic, and of course I had to make an elaborate design, so we'll see. I don't know if you can even tell, if you can even see. It's just like the tiniest of scorch marks going on here. So, don't quite know. We'll assume it's doing good things, and I'll get back to you. 5 minutes is up. I'm not sure I set out what I accomplished. I'm not sure I accomplished what I set out to do, because it looks like that. But I'm gonna press on and do the rest, and see what we turn up with. On the second piece, which is the second part, the hindquarters of the deer, it choked on it at the HD photograph size, so I mean at the HD photograph size. So I knocked it down to the HD graphic. We'll see if that makes any difference or not. But it says this bit's going to take 10 minutes and 52 seconds, so we're going to let that go. Nothing different. Nothing is different from before. I did not open the lid. I did not move the material in any way. So hopefully this should be perfectly aligned. It is on the HD graphic setting, which is my understanding that it just goes a bit faster, does not have as much detail, and that should be okay, because this is going to be the kind of the fuzzy, ethereal part of the deer anyway. It is going a bit faster, although it's going to take longer. It's a bit bigger section. You can see a little more of what's going on. It's hard to see on this white masking they have over the acrylic. But yeah, I'll keep you updated. More now. Apparently HD photo was not the way to go for the head piece. It looks like it might be upside down. Not quite sure what's going on, but this is definitely looking a lot more visible than the head. I may have to go back and recut the head. We'll see. I don't know if you can hear me better. that is what it's done so far. So yeah, it's interesting. Not sure it's exactly what I want yet, but like I said, I'm going to forge on because I've broken it down into so many layers. It's going to be hard to tell until I have at least all of them having made one pass. So we're going to go on to the third section of the shading and see what happens. I'm going to put this in here, even though it's a bit embarrassing. I don't know what it's doing right now. There's nothing in that section of the document. There's nothing there. And for the past minute or so, it's just kind of been going back and forth in the middle of the thing. Now, it's still counting down. I don't even think the laser's firing. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But I wanted to record it for posterity because I know that there will be a lot of you out there who also have difficulty using this. And even though I consider myself a fairly technologically advanced person. I'm a computer super user. I'm an internet web developer. I use electronic tools every day of my life. I still have no idea what this is doing. So, yeah, don't feel bad if you get it doing something weird. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash. I will figure out what's going on, or I will not, and we will just move on to another way to get the project accomplished. But I just wanted to put this in here because God knows what it's doing right now. You look at the screen, you can see that that purple part was what it was supposed to be printing, and that bits I was showing you was kind of like off in the center over here somewhere. And these bits were from another level of the printing process, one of these two, and of course it doesn't line up with anything. Not exactly sure what's going on there. But like I said, we'll forge ahead. It's time to ignore this one and do the next one. And see if the HD graphic version, see if this, these are the legs, so see if this lines up anywhere in any sort of reality that that we're going to use here. If nothing else, this is a fun experiment in dividing and conquering, and realizing that your dividing is not necessarily conquering. Okay, so according to what the processor is showing me, I mean, it's not really getting the legs as like what I showed you earlier. I have a theory, I don't know if it's correct, but the theory is that my gradient is too light for the processing to translate correctly. That it just may be in those areas too light for the laser to do any kind of engrave that would make it visible. So that's probably why I saw it moving around doing nothing, although why it was in the middle and not over here on the side where it should have been, I don't know. So it looks like I'm only going to get like a third of my legs, but we'll let it go anyway and see what happens. This is 17 minutes and 33 seconds, so I'll pick you up after the gap. After it's been through all 4 sets of the gradiated ethereal bits and wisps, it didn't really come out at all like I thought that it would. I need to revisit the art and change the gradients a bit, but I am going to go ahead and run the highlights and the cut pattern and see if just those 2 would have been successful without this 3rd layer, which became 4 pieces, so it became 7 layers. I don't think it needed it now, but I won't know until I press on and go ahead and print the other 2. So this next layer should be the highlights layer. It's a solid vector layer out of Illustrator, no gradients whatsoever. So it should be more straightforward than the previous 4 prints. Back at the computer here, you can see I have fewer options this time when I go to Proofgrade Engrave for this particular section of the file, because it is purely vector. There is no gradient, there is no pings in this one. So I'm just going to go straight to the HD graphic, which is what I did the others on anyway. And I hope that that will be all I need. Now this is basically to highlight the hooves, some of the muscles. Is really hard for this to focus on my laptop screen. Some of the muscles around the ears. It looks like, I'm wondering if this graying out that it's showing me is the parts that it thinks are too light to print. Nope, I'm wrong. Those are the layers I've already told it to ignore. So forget that. It is the blue highlighted layers that it's going to try, well, now purple, since I've moved my cursor off of it, highlighted layers that it's now going to try and add to this engraving. So here goes nothing. So this section that is just a full vector engrave, it thinks is going to take 27 minutes and 2 seconds, because that 2 seconds is very important. I am seeing a whole lot more, focus please, come on camera, focus. I am seeing a whole lot more in the way of actual engraving showing up in the little animation, which makes me happier. And again, this was the highlights animation portion of the deer. But you can see on this picture, it's not lining up at all. I don't know if it's going to line up on the actual Glowforge, because I've been told that the picture for visual alignment is not worth anything. Again, I'm just leaving everything alone right now and keeping my fingers crossed that it's all going to line up and come out in the wash. So now it's over to the Glowforge and pushing the lovely glowing button one more time. So this is the last engrave before the final cut of the deer. I really hope this is going to add a lot more definition to the character. And I'll let you know in 20 minutes. The shape is coming out much cleaner than the previous pings, embedded pings inside of the SVG file did. The details of the previous PNG files are not aligned at all, so that didn't work. I'll have to try something else at a later time, which means that the ethereal details that is now lasering over the top of are in the wrong place for the ones that it actually did laser. So this is going to be an interesting finished result. It's not going to be at all what I thought it was going to be, but it's going to give me, certainly giving me a idea of what I can and can't do. Even when I've read through the best practices, it's nothing compared to real life experience. So here is what's going on so far, and we'll look at the end result. The camera will focus. We'll look at the end result in a little bit. It finished the vector print. Looks much more like a deer. This was supposed to be the highlights section. I don't know why there's nothing in the leg area. It looks like there was a big blotch of data that didn't get processed correctly, but I could just be mistaken. Maybe I didn't put anything in there. I have been known to do that. We'll check the file and see. But right now we're going to move on to the cut. Yes, the cut. And see if, well, that'll just be the cut. But I'll peel it off and show you the end result, and we'll try and make some improvements for the next go round. Okay, so the cut is only going to take 55 seconds So I should be able to peel this off here really quick and show you what happened and what didn't happen. Here goes the cut. There's smoke coming up back there. There is. So the cut obviously makes the shape of the deer, and the highlights are aligned in the right place. It was just all the pings that I did as 4 separate files that did not work out at all. Ooh, acrylic smell. This is the only time it has smelled. The engraved didn't smell at all. This smells kind of like garlic. It smells a lot like garlic, actually. Anyway, it just cooled off. I'll let it sit there for a second, and then I will take it out and peel the paper back. So it's finished now, and I've pulled the proof grade out of the machine. This is, of course, the remains. This is what it was cut out of. It's a nice, clean cut. Of course, I've never worked with acrylic before, so this is really nice for me to see how that comes out. This is where the etching happened that didn't line up. Well, first of all, it didn't even show up half of the etching, but it should have been lined up there. I didn't move any of the proof grade materials. I didn't even open the lid, but somehow in between it scans every time, and I guess that may have done some shifting, but it did not line up. So I'm going to have to work on file size for things like bitmapped gradients that I want to put on for etching effects. That's something I'll have to work on. Here's my actual little deer guy. He's still on the crumb tray. When I lift him up here, the little holes in his legs should fall out. There they are. So he's still got his... Come on, focus. Yeah, he's still got his paper on him at this point. I am going to peel the paper off, and I have a little light bar downstairs that I want to light him up on, and we'll see what he actually looks like. So after paper, I'll show him to you again, and then we'll go down and put him on the light. This, by the way, looks really cool. This is one of the clear pieces that was in between his legs that just kind of turned sideways, so you can see that how clear it is in between the pieces of paper. They turn it this way, and that's what I've been looking at for hours now, but in reality, it's going to be clear, so that's kind of cool too. Here he is. It looks like the highlights layer worked out really well. The hooves, the tummy area, the shading on the neck, the face, all of that came out really nicely. It's all this stuff that I can't focus on. It's all this stuff in the middle that was the misaligned, fuzzy, ethereal stuff that I was hoping would be all over the body, actually. It was supposed to diffuse the light. I'm going to plug it into the light here now. I actually came downstairs to the change of scenery because the upstairs smells so much like garlic after this that I had to let it air out a bit. And actually the piece itself smells, can't smell through the camera, but the piece itself smells very strongly of garlic as well. I'm going to give it a bit of a rinse and see if that helps with the smell. But overall, and you're looking at the back side of it now. When you carve on acrylic, you invert the image, so you've been looking at the image on screen facing this way for the entire thing.
and that's fine. But I was reading that that's really you're engraving the back of it. So, and I intended for him to be facing this way, her to be facing this way. Anyway, my little doe for the Patronus. So the hooves look cool. I'm not sure that they're high enough to actually stick out of the lamp base that I have, but that's okay because this is a test run anyway. Lots of other things need to be ironed out. But overall, I really liked the look of the clear deer with a little bit of the highlights. It was a fun project. It took most of the day. Let me put it in the light and show you what it looks like.
Folks, so we're back. The garlic smell actually had nothing to do with the acrylic, or at least it wasn't sticking to the acrylic. It was the paper masking. Paper masking really smelled. So I threw that away and washed my hands, and now we're good. Everything's clean. He doesn't smell now. And this is the light bar that I'm going to put him in right now. It came with a lamp my husband got me with the turtles in it, which is really cool. And I'm just using it as this in an example of, I don't even know if it'll fit in there. This is not as thick as that, but I just wanted to see how it looked lit up. So here goes with the blue for the Patronus. Yeah, actually that's pretty cool. If there had been more of the etching, I think he would have looked a little more ethereal, but I don't know, maybe I'll just stick with the vector files, give him a few more strokes in there around, the rear area or the leg area, but not very many because here where it did line up for the neck, like, that's kind of nice. I don't know. I'll have to do some more experimentation and see. But overall, it wasn't a bad first experience. I mean, like, some crazy stuff happened, but not like super crazy. Nothing caught fire, nothing melted. So overall, I think it turned out pretty good. He does stand in there. He's a bit wobbly because it's not as thick as the acrylic that really goes in there. But yeah, overall, I think it looks pretty neat. I like the way the blue lights up around the edges. May need to add some more vector graphic around the edges. But yeah, that's it. Tell me what you think, or if you more experienced Glowforge users know what I did wrong, please let me know. Otherwise, it's just going to be more trial and error on my part until I get it right. Chat with you soon.